The William Ruto government has signed a sweeping defense cooperation agreement with France that explicitly allows hundreds of French troops to operate inside our sovereign borders and a parliamentary report has now confirmed it, while only timidly tweaking two of the most dangerous clauses. Let that sink in deeply, dangerously, at the precise moment when Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and others are heroically expelling French military forces in a historic wave of African reclamation. Kenya is flinging the doors wide open. This is not partnership. This is a breathtaking capitulation that risks turning parts of our territory into a French playground, with reduced Kenyan control. The deal, signed on October 29, 2025, by Defense Cabinet Secretary Soipantuya and French Ambassador Arnaud Souquet, has now advanced to full ratification. Roughly 800 French troops have already disembarked from warships in Mombasa. The 5-year pact automatically renewable, frames, training, and other activities. But what in heaven's name are these mysterious other activities? The vagueness is deliberate, shocking, and terrifying. It opens the floodgates to mission creep, intelligence operations, logistical basing, and God knows what else under the banner of cooperation. Here is the jaw-dropping reality that should send chills down every Kenyan spine. If a French soldier commits a serious crime on Kenyan soil, rape, murder, environmental destruction, or worse, France gets to detain, investigate, and prosecute them first. Kenya's hands are largely tied. French authorities can influence the jurisdiction, rush through a trial, even a whitewashed one, and invoke double jeopardy principles so that Kenya may never get a second chance at justice. This is not alliance building. This is neo-colonial impunity carved into black and white, aka direct erosion of our hard-won sovereignty. The Parliamentary Defense Committee report acknowledges these red flags but proposes only partial, watered-down amendments to 2 clauses on legal status and criminal jurisdiction. Cosmetic surgery on a gaping wound, duty-free imports for French personnel and equipment, diplomatic-style immunities, the same privileges that have fueled resentment and abuses across the continent. Public participation is supposedly invited, yet the steamroller toward approval feels unstoppable. Compare this nightmare to what we already endure with Batuk, the British Army training unit in Nanyuki. Decades of training have left a trail of destruction, sexual violence against local women, unexploded ordnance maiming civilians, and catastrophic environmental damage. Remember the 2021 white phosphorus fires that torched over 10,000 acres in Loldaiga, killing wildlife and scorching the land. British forces admitted using the hazardous munitions, and the haunting case of Agnes Wanjiru, stabbed to death in 2012 near a British base with soldiers, allegedly confessing. The killer remains protected in the UK to this day. Weak accountability, endless delays, Kenyan victims left crying for justice. Now we are repeating this horror story, but with French troops. Across the Sahel, nations have woken up and acted decisively. Mali booted French forces in 2022 after Operation Barkhane failed to deliver security while breeding resentment. Burkina Faso followed in 2023, rejecting paternalism and asserting dignity. Niger expelled them post-2023 coup amid massive protests. These countries saw the pattern: foreign troops with immunity shields, vague mandates, environmental havoc, and sovereignty theft. They said enough. Kenya, meanwhile, at this pivotal 2026 moment, chooses the opposite path. While Africa pivots towards self-reliance and new alliances, we are doubling down on the old playbook. The risks are enormous and multi-layered. Imagine French troops involved in other activities, clashing with local communities in coastal areas or training zones. Imagine another Wanjiru-style tragedy, but this time with Paris shielding the perpetrator. Imagine environmental disasters from live-fire exercises using munitions we cannot fully regulate. Imagine intelligence sharing that entangles Kenya in French geopolitical games far beyond our borders. This deal threatens to undermine Kenya's non-aligned legacy, Pan-African leadership, and East African integration. Our youth, already protesting economic hardships, deserve better than foreign bases that could spark future unrest. Civil society, academics, and parliamentarians must rise up before the vote. Demand full excision of immunity clauses. Demand binding environmental protections enforceable under Kenyan law. Demand transparency on other activities. Demand a real sovereignty audit. Let that sink in again. While the Sahel celebrates Frexit, Kenya is signing up for a fresh chapter of foreign military embedding. This is shocking. This is reckless. This is a moment that will define whether we are truly independent or still dancing to external tunes. Professor Elias Mwangi, live from TIV, signing off with a heavy heart and a clarion call. Kenya, wake up. Protect your soil, your people, your future. The parliamentary vote looms. History is watching. The consequences will echo for generations. Listen closely as I deliver this exhaustive, unflinching conclusion to my live academic dispatch from the windswept hills of TIV, the William Ruto, Government's Defense Cooperation. Agreement with France is not a footnote in Kenya's foreign policy. It is a seismic betrayal that will reverberate across our entire continent like a thunderclap in the Sahel. With roughly 800 French troops already boots on the ground in Mombasa, the 5-year pact, automatically renewable, review only after a decade, now hurtling toward parliamentary ratification despite partial, cosmetic tweaks to 2 deadly clauses on immunity and jurisdiction. This moment demands we confront the brutal truth. What must Africans expect from this deal? Catastrophe on multiple fronts. And why is it not good for Africa? Because it is a dagger aimed at the heart of our sovereignty, our dignity, and our hard-won post-colonial awakening. Let that sink in, deeply, painfully, and with the full weight of history behind it. I will unpack this layer by layer, scenario by scenario, precedent by precedent, until the scale of the danger is impossible to ignore. This is no alarmism. This is rigorous scholarly foresight grounded in the lived failures of France-Afrique, the documented horrors of Beytuk, and the triumphant Frexit sweeping West Africa. First, what Africans must expect in the immediate term: a repeat and likely escalation of the very abuses that have driven Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Senegal, and Ivory Coast to expel French forces since 2022. Picture this unfolding in Kenya's coastal communities and training zones within months. French soldiers, granted diplomatic-style immunities and duty-free imports for vehicles, equipment, and personal effects, will operate under a framework where France holds primary right to detain, investigate, and prosecute any crimes committed on Kenyan soil. If a French troop commits rape, murder, assault, or looting, as has happened repeatedly in the Sahel and with Beytuk, Kenyan police will stand aside. Paris can rush a perfunctory trial, declare it closed under non-bis in idem principles, and Kenya is forever barred from justice. Expect families like that of Agnes Wanjiru, whose 2012 murder by British soldiers near Nanyuki remains a festering wound, with the suspect only recently arrested for possible extradition after years of UK shielding to multiply under French colors. Recent Kenyan parliamentary probes into Beytuk have exposed decades of sexual violence, killings and cover-ups in Laikipia and Samburu. Now multiply that by French troops with even vaguer mandates. Training and other activities is the poison pill. What are those other activities? Intelligence operations? Surveillance of Kenyan citizens? Logistical support for French interests in the Indian Ocean? Joint ops that drag Kenya into France's Mediterranean or Indo-Pacific rivalries? The opacity is intentional, and Africans must expect mission creep. French bases expanding beyond Mombasa, live fire exercises scarring more land, and local women and girls once again bearing the brunt of unaccountable foreign soldiers far from home. Environmentally brace for disaster. Beytuk's 2021 white phosphorus incident torched over 12,000 acres in Loldaiga Conservancy, killing wildlife, livestock, and triggering respiratory illnesses, miscarriages, and toxic fallout. Compensation was a paltry $2.9 million for 7,023 claimants, with no full environmental impact assessments ever conducted. French troops under this pact will conduct similar training without binding Kenyan oversight. Expect wildfires, unexploded ordnance littering farmlands, polluted water sources in the rift and coast, and devastated ecosystems hosting elephants, lions, and Grevy's zebras. Communities in Laikipia already sue Beytuk for maiming children with UXO. Now add French munitions, and the bill, both financial and human, will bankrupt local resilience. Africans must expect health crises, contaminated soils leading to birth defects, livestock die-offs crippling pastoralists, and tourism revenue evaporating. As Kenya's pristine landscapes become militarized wastelands, this is not partnership. It is ecological imperialism disguised as capacity building. Socially and politically, expect simmering unrest that boils over. Kenya's youth, already marching against taxes, corruption, and cost of living crises, will not sit idle while foreign troops enjoy privileges denied to citizens. Protests like those in Niamey, Ouagadougou, and Bamako, France, go home, will echo in Mombasa, Nairobi, and Nanyuki. Imagine nightly news of another Wanjiru case sparking riots, diplomatic rows, and eroded public trust in the Ruto administration. Across Africa, this deal sets a catastrophic precedent. If Kenya, East Africa's economic powerhouse and supposed Pan-African leader, opens the door while the Sahel slams it shut, it normalizes neo-colonial footholds elsewhere. Expect copycat deals in other Anglophone nations, fragmenting the African Union's push for collective security through AMISOM, successors and regional standby forces. The Africa-France summit coming to Nairobi next month. It is not goodwill. It is Paris rebranding France-Afrique in a non-Francophone capital, while Macron courts Ruto for G7 optics. Africans must expect economic strings, French aid and loans tied to this pact, locking Kenya and by extension the region into CFA-like dependencies, resource extraction favors, and votes aligning with Paris in the UN Security Council.